Hi everyone, Cynthia Bazin from Smart Chick and my show, Inspiring Interviews with Successful Smart Women. Thank you so much for stopping by live, or if you're catching the replay. I'm super excited that you're here, and we've got an amazing guest today, and I can't wait to get her on. For those of you that don't know me, I am a motivational speaker and I'm a premier mentor. I help you get super laser focused in your personal and professional life to help you achieve your greatest success and happiness. You can learn more about me at smartchick.me, which is indicated on my banner below. But most importantly is, why did I start this show, Inspiring Interviews with Successful Smart Women? Well, let me tell you something. Over the last couple years, I have had the amazing opportunity to meet so many great people on social media. Most of my business is actually on social media, so you know what? I get the opportunity to connect with and interact and support other entrepreneurs. And so this is my way of giving back to those people in my inner circle that I think are just fabulous. They're givers, they're people of integrity, and they have real stuff going on with their lives. So you know what? I'm so thrilled to have our guest today, Regan Black. And let me tell you a little bit about Regan Black. I'm going to have to refer to my notes a little bit and a little tongue twister of a bio, but let me get through this. She is so absolutely amazing. Regan Black is a USA Today bestseller, is the award-winning author of action-packed romantic suspense, paranormal romance, and urban fantasy novels and short stories. In addition, she's also penned the nonfiction titles Into the Dorm, The Adopt a Greyhound Guide, and Goal Setting for Writers, as well as co-authoring The Writer's Survival Guide. Raised in the Midwest in California, she and her family, along with their adopted greyhound, two arrogant cats, I'd like to see them, and a quirky finch, reside in the South Carolina Low Country, where the rich blend of legend, romance, and history fuels her imagination. Regan Black is an absolutely amazing author and just person, and she is here today to help all of us that are looking to write our own books, how we can get motivated and stay laser focused in her writing. And you're going to find out actually how many books this lady has written. She is such an inspiration to me. So without further hesitation, Regan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Cynthia. Thank you so much for having me.
You have no idea. I'm sorry. You have no idea how absolutely thrilled I am to have you on. So let's get right to it, Regan. But I want to share with the audience a little bit about your background. I mean, can you first answer that question just so people know that, you know what, you're going to have something to say. How many books total have you written?
I actually went back and checked my notes in preparation for this particular question. Overall, I have 25 novels, 5 novellas, 20 short stories, and so far 5 nonfiction titles as well. So.
Hello, folks. Regan is the absolute perfect person to be talking about this subject today on how to stay motivated. So did you hear how many books she's written? So for those of you that haven't gotten your first one done yet, there's no excuse. And she is going to give us such amazing tips. So Regan, tell us a little bit about your background. I read a little bit about your bio, but how did writing first start for you? Was this something from the beginning of time you picked up a pen and just started writing, or was it a progressive thing?
Well, I think the easy answer to that is it was not a progressive thing. I think I've always better expressed myself in the written word. I think I was always very shy. So when I wrote things down, I could think them through and really refine them before I did anything with them. So writing has always been important. Writing professionally was not a goal of mine ever. I wasn't like I always dreamed of being a published author. That came much later. So
interesting. Okay, so you know what, I had a little bit of audio difficulties on my end. I'm not sure if anybody else did, but it sounds like from the beginning of time you're very creative and you love to do the written word. And so when did you really do your first professional book, would you say?
I sold my first book in late 2004.
Awesome.
And it was published then in the I guess it came out in January 2005, and I had been working on novels from about 2001 on. So my husband came home to work, and just completely, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was working on my second book of poetry. I was a published poet before I was a published author in fiction. And so when he came home to work, oh my goodness, it just made me crazy. And my poetry was, you know, rainbows and sunshines one day, and it sounded like I was going to jump off a cliff the next. And so I ended up fictionalizing the way we met, trying to remember why I fell in love with him. And it worked. It's the worst romance novel in the history of romance novels, but it saves a marriage, I think. And it got me addicted on the process of writing novels.
Awesome, awesome. Everyone on the program today is Regan Black. You need to grab yourself a cup of coffee. She's got her coffee also. Sit back and relax for this half-an-hour show. And her website is reganblack.com. And she is an amazing author, and she is teaching us all today. And I can't wait to hear her tips on how to stay motivated and laser focused while writing a book. So Regan, why don't we just jump right into that question? How do we all, but I guess from your perspective, how do you stay laser focused and motivated while writing a book?
I think the key for me because every book that I've written has ups and downs, and my husband can almost set a timer by when it's going to hit for me that the book sort of bums out. And so the thing that just keeps me on track when I'm writing a story or even nonfiction is why I'm writing that story. What's the reason? With nonfiction, why do I find it imperative to share this with people? And with fiction, I focus in what the core of the story is. You know, is it a reunion story? Is it falling in love? Is it a mystery? Whatever it is, why do I feel compelled to tell the story that way? And I think when you know the why of your effort, it helps you stay centered. And you can refer back to that. I think it's important, even if it's just one sentence. When you know that why, it keeps you grounded in the project. So when you start to fade or feel frustrated, you're like, wait a minute, it is really important for me to tell other writers about the mistakes I made, you know, like in the Writer's Survival Guide. That's all about Kimberly and I telling other writers to try and save them some of the angst we went through. You know, so that's to share an experience. That's to add value that way. When I just turned in a book a few weeks ago, and I struggled with the heroine, and I had to go back to my character development sheet and realize what I loved about her. You know, and later I figured out why I had a hard time warming up to her on the page. But when I remembered why I loved her, that way the reader can see that too. That sort of shines through, and they can remember why, or not. They don't remember why I loved her, but when I'm focused on why I loved that character, what mattered to me in that character, that comes through in the story, and it shapes it for the reader.
Okay, all right. So you've said a lot, Regan, so I want to kind of regroup. One of the things of what you say in writing a book just sort of translate into business also. I mean, sometimes, you know what, not every day is full of, you know, roses and, you know what I mean, rainbows and stuff like that, whatever you want to say. Is sometimes, you know what, it's a little bit hard to get motivated. You know what I mean? Yep. So even yourself, who has written so many books, sometimes, you know what, you need to get yourself back laser focused and motivated. We all do in business. So what I heard from you, Regan, is sort of you need to regroup. And sometimes it's taking a step back, right? Taking a step back and really focusing in on the why you said. And okay, so getting back to the why, I was wondering if you could kind of get a little more into the nitty gritty though, as far as, you know, getting yourself back motivated. So like if you could take us to a day that maybe you're not so motivated, it's just not clicking, right? It's just not clicking. Give us an inside scoop of, you know, so what you do, because maybe you know the why, but you know what, you're just frustrated, and you know what, nothing is coming. So what do you do at that point? You know what I mean? If it's just not flowing, you know, there's chaos going on in the house or at your office or whatever, and it's just not going to happen. Do you have to cut yourself some slack sometimes?
Well, sure. You've got to give yourself grace. Two things. You've got to give yourself grace to write crap. Okay, you've got to It's true. Your first draft,
Really?
you know, when we see beautiful finished books that just speak to us, or you know, authors who've developed a topic nonfiction and they're just, oh my gosh, that message, how did they know to word it so well? Chances are they did not hit that on the first try. That came from getting the words out, editing, polishing, revision, all of that. So on days when I am just up against a wall, you know, oh great, my deadline's too close and I've got no inspiration for this, and I know why I need to tell the story, even if it's just the meet the expectation of turning in the story. What I do two things. I give myself permission to edit later. Write first, edit later. I just sit down, and when I sit down, I set a timer. And a lot of times on horrible days, I start with 10 minutes. I will set my phone, I'll set a timer for 10 minutes, and I just write whatever is going on with the scene, the character. A lot of times I'll just pick up a conversation. And with nonfiction, I would pick up what's one line that I liked, and I'd run with that for 10 minutes. And if I'm still going at 10 minutes, great. But otherwise, I get up, take a breath, and set the timer again, maybe this time for 15 minutes. And I keep going like that. That's what I call a writing sprint. So on days that are just awful, I give myself grace that it's going to get fixed in editing. It's not going to be perfect today, but I've got to get words on the page. And then I do my writing sprint so that those words land on the page.
Interesting. You know, I like the writing sprint thing. I kind of use the term the time blocking and kind of set a timer just to, you know what, it kind of positively pushes you to, you know, get something done within a certain period of time. So everybody listening out there, you know, don't just say, hey, today I'm going to write, right? Because you know what? You may just go all day and lollygag and not really get anything done. Put yourself under a little bit of positive pressure. And we're going to talk about the best time to write. I'm sure it's pretty individualistic for each kind of person. But yeah, I love that. The writing sprint. And be gentle to yourself, but also you need to get back to it. The other thing that I really got out of what you said, Regan, was, you know, just write. Is that, you know what, get it out, put it on paper, and then you're going to go back at some point and revisit it and edit and stuff like that. So for those people out there that, you know what, you're trying to make every word perfect and you're moving around words the first time around, you're not recommending that, right, Regan?
Not at all. In fact, I don't know if you can see this. This is my Alpha Smart.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll notice the screen is really tiny and it's really hard. You can see like 4 to 6 lines on this thing at a time. And you can pick them up dirt cheap now that they don't need them in schools anymore. iPads have sort of replaced them. But the thing that's magic about that for me is it makes me write forward. I can't edit. I can't move a chunk of stuff around. I have to keep going forward. So I write on that. It doesn't have Wi-Fi, which is also a benefit for me. And then I can upload it to my computer. It feels like magic because suddenly pages are being filled in my document. But then I can go in and edit and polish and make it shine. That thing really keeps me on track, and it's especially effective.
You know, kind of related to staying laser focused and motivated is that, let me ask you a question. Do you keep Facebook up and email up and all those fun things up while you're trying to write, or do you shut them down?
I shut them down. I shut them down. I keep my phone near me, so in case my kids need me, and I keep my phone near me as a timer. But on days when it's too tempting, when I'd really like to just check on my phone, I'll just put my phone in another room and use a different kind of timer, just use a little kitchen timer. I have to do that sometimes too. But no, I shut it all down because, oh, good grief, you could just get lost forever. You know, I mean, social media is fun. I love it, but the writing has to come first in my world.
You know, I've gotten to know Regan Black over the last several months really well, and it's really great because sometimes we'll be corresponding and she'll say, hey, gotta go into the writing cave. I love that. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to hear from her for whatever time because she's in a writing cave and she is getting laser focused and motivated. So everybody out there, ReganBlack.com, awesome author who's giving us great tips on how to move forward in writing that book. We all need to get it done. I've co-authored a couple books. I'm writing my own right now. There is no excuse. This woman has several books done in a year. And you know what? For us to get ours done, we need to do it. But the great tip that she just shared, which I think we all know, but do we do it? When we're focused in on a task, we need to shut down the social media. We need to eliminate the distractions around us so we can get things done. Perfect,
Right.
perfect, perfect. All right, Regan, next question. So, all right. Now, how can busy people find the time to write and come into that time energized? I think this really comes into where do you write and what are your most creative times? And is it different for different people?
I think writing creatively is different for different people. And I think this takes a little trial and error. It certainly did for me. I used to get up a little earlier and try to get those first creative words in before everybody got started in the day. As different things have happened in my life, that sort of faded away. I used to think, so years ago, I was most creative like between 6 and 10 in the morning. Okay, and I, get up early, get a little bit of writing done, get the kids off to school, and then come back and really write. Now, my prime time is actually between 9 and 3, 10 and 3. That's when I get my most creative words done. And I've noticed that as the day goes on, once we get past 2 o'clock or so, my brain tends to go more analysis, and I can write nonfiction very well in the afternoon, evenings, whereas my fiction tends to be the first part of my day. So that's just me. Now, if you're starting out and you've got a full-time job and family and responsibilities, you're going to need to find what works for you. And that may be getting up a little bit earlier. I have a couple author buddies who get up at 4 and they write from 4 to 7 and then get their families going. And that's when they get their writing, their content, their writing forward done. And they go back and they edit later. I have other people who, as soon as dinner's taken care of, they go into their own writing cave for an hour to an hour, a couple hours a night. It's going to depend on you and your rhythm and your responsibilities. And I think the thing to remember when you're starting out is that every page counts. Short times add up. So don't be super hard on yourself and say, oh, I don't have a whole day to write. I don't have a whole week to write. Those short 20, even 20 to 30-minute blocks add up quickly. If you write a page a day, you're going to have a 365-page book at the end of the year. So don't look at, it's kind of like eating an elephant. You do it one, that old adage, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. The short parts add up. And I think that's the thing to remember. So you need to find when you're most creative and squeeze that in, or when you have a creative opening in your day. And that might be, I have a friend who writes at lunch. She goes out to her car, takes her notebook and pen, and she writes for 30 minutes at lunch, and that's how she gets her books done. It's whatever works. You have to get a little creative, especially when you have other responsibilities.
But you make a great point, and I think we all know this. I mean, I know through just growing through life, I know my creative times. As you know, Regan, early morning, way too early for most people in the world. But you know what? I love getting up in the morning because I seem to get a lot done in that early morning hours for, 2 hours or so. But try to catch me at noon or, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's sort of my lull. You know what I mean? And so creative stuff, you know what? That's just not going to happen. Now, later on in the evening, sometimes, I'm very creative then. So everyone, I think you can really take a look at this. See if you're writing a book or, wanting to start to write a book, is that you need to time block it. Know when your creative times are. And you know what? You just have to schedule it too. You just can't say I'm going to write a book and then the days go by and you don't schedule it into your calendar. So find when your most creative times are. And the other thing that I got from Regan, there's so much information we're getting from Regan. I hope you're writing it down. I'm writing it down. You're going to get the replay on this. But really start tying some goals together. So for example, with my book, I've got the goal of when I want to get it out. You know what I mean? And then you need to break it down. Even if it doesn't work out all the time, are you going to try to write a couple pages a day? Are you going to write so much in a week? Write 3 days a week? Do something to break down that large, lofty goal into smaller, more reasonable tasks. Does that make sense, Regan? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. I think you have to, if you can write a page in an hour, great. If you can only write an hour a day, you're still going to have a book at the end of the year. or if you're writing shorter things, great. So you write a page a day and the book's only going to be 10 to 20 pages, whatever that, it kind of depends on what your goal is, but knowing how you produce it and then squeezing it in there is vital to making it happen. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Just tapping into what you do. And you know what? Why don't you give us a couple titles of your most recent books? Just name them up. Some of your most recent works.
Okay, my most recent fiction is To Honor and to Protect, co-written with Deborah Webb. Just came out June 1st from Harlequin Intrigue. We had a February release also. Heart of a Hero is that one. Sorry, the titles. We have a Dangerous Protectors trilogy, also co-written with Deborah Webb. That's Against the Wall, Against the Wall, Too Far Gone, Nothing to Lose. Great series. Loved putting that together with her. In addition, I've got a special going on right now. If you sign up for my newsletter, you get my Bulletproof book for free. It's my gift to everybody who subscribes this month. So you get a Kindle edition of that for free. That's a really great one, and what I'm working on this month is actually expanding that world and that series with another title coming out later this summer. So, and then of course there's the Writer's Survival Guide, which came out March, and Runaway Secret is a novella. Romantic Suspense came out in April. Do you want to know more?
Awesome. Perfect. At reganblack.com, I'm really curious though, just in regards to your genre of writing, right? Because I can only imagine myself doing, nonfiction stuff, just self-help. That's just kind of who I am. I'm just curious, as far as the type of writing that you do, where does that creativity, where did those stories come from? Do you pull from experiences, things that you've learned over the years? You see somebody walking down the street, you see something on TV. If you could just, for somebody who loves that, type of genre and is interested in it and intrigued by it, if you don't mind sharing, where does that creativity come from?
I think it's just inherent. I mean, I love to read. I love to read. I love to read nonfiction. I love to read really crazy, contemporary fiction and really crazy fiction. I love to read across all genres, and I think when you have that passion, I think some of that and then you have a natural affinity for writing, it sort of comes together. So, like I said, I never thought I'd write romance novels until I had to try and remind myself what I found so blessedly attractive of my husband at the moment.
I love that.
He's such a good sport about it. I mean, he understood, and he was such a good sport about it. So it's kind of a joke now, and our 25th wedding anniversary is coming up. So, we obviously are doing something right, but I think ideas come from a lot of things, and like I was driving the kids home from school one day, and I remember seeing this girl in this really pretty like fairy costume. She must have been doing a play or something like that, but she was sitting all alone just on this one little, she wasn't even on a corner. She had apparently stopped to meet a friend or something, and she's in the middle surrounded by all these trees. And I thought, oh my gosh, it was like she just appeared. Well, being a writer, naturally I've got this whole backstory going, and then if you think about romantic suspense, I could have a really dark backstory going for her, and it just sort of comes together. Have I ever written that character? No, not specifically, but I think it's just kind of training your mind. For me, my mind naturally goes to storytelling. I got it from my grandma. That's one reason why I decided to do this interview here. This is the desk behind me where I do a lot of my creative writing. So, so that knack for storytelling, that desire to just make stuff up and have fun, that had to come from her.
And I'm always looking for the practical side of things to give people smart tips out of that. So I always say inspiration is everywhere, and you never know when you might have an idea for something to put in your book or just something for your business. So I often keep like a little notepad with me, and sometimes I put it next to my bed so that, you never know when the creativity is going to hit. So you don't want to forget that. So maybe just jotting down the idea, and that sort of thing. So I want to touch on this, Regan, because I think a big piece in just keeping motivated in anything we do, and, obviously we're talking about book writing today, but how important is the accountability piece for you?
Very. I think, it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to write a book, but we all know when. When are you going to write a book? Is that a someday book? You know, and for me to say, oh, I'm going to write a book, well, people kind of expect that because I'm an author. You know, anywhere on social media, you see, oh, Regan Black is an author. That kind of goes with it. That's my day job. That's my night job. That's my, middle of the night job. But
24 hours a day job, right?
It can be, yeah, it definitely can be. So I think accountability is very important. And when I was first starting my career, accountability was vital. You know, I needed to be able to check in with someone. I needed to be able to tell someone, because at that point, I didn't have hard publisher deadlines. Every deadline was self-imposed as to when I was going to pitch this to an editor, or when I was going to start querying this to an agent. So self-imposed deadlines, I think accountability is very important. So if you have a buddy who knows how to keep you on track without putting you down, that's very important to have someone who's positive, who understands when life gets in the way but won't let you off the hook. That's key. You know, you get a flat tire, that's really a bummer of a day. Does it have to kill all of your writing production that day? No, it really doesn't. But it's very easy to say, oh, I had a flat tire, so no, I didn't write. And trust me, I did that. I did that a lot. We all do it. We all have days. But having an accountability buddy, whether they're another writer or not, just somebody to check in with. You know, at this point, my accountability buddy is my husband, and I think he likes to know my daily word count, like I said, just so he can keep track of when the next meltdown's coming. So he's like,
well, with that said, with the meltdowns that come sometimes, because you write so many different books and you finish one and you're basically sometimes writing two at a time, or you're starting the next one. In addition to accountability and getting that kick in the butt sometimes that you need, you also need to reward yourself, don't you? When you've finished something, right? You need to keep yourself really motivated. So, yes, you have the goal of writing the book, but also maybe along the way, reward yourself. This has got to be fun too. You don't want it to be painful, right?
Exactly. And so, I mean, a lot of writers that I know and friends of mine, we always joke because, it would be, you get into that point and you're chugging along and you're making the word count and you're sure you're on track, and somehow that deadline still kind of sneaks up behind you and grabs you, and it's like, what happened? So you forget to vacuum, or we call it, my husband and I call it deadline lasagna. He makes a pan of lasagna and we just eat off that for a week. It's not necessarily healthy, but there are options. So it's things like that. But the reward used to be, I will clean this house. The dust bunnies will leave when I'm done with this book. And then I thought, well, that's really boring. You're going to finish a book and you get to vacuum? No, it wasn't working for me. Exactly. So I started, my husband and I came up with an idea that I pop champagne. When the draft is done, when I've hit the end and the draft, I do a cheap champagne when the draft is done. And I do a little bit more expensive champagne when the book goes off to the editor. So it's just. I
love that. I love that. You know what?
We have a toast and we celebrate it. I learned very early in my career, actually from Karen Hawkins, who's another romance author. I learned very early in my career, you have to reward even the smallest steps. You really do. And sometimes that's just writing down, 2,000 words in my progress journal, or 5,000 word day. And a lot of times I'll look at those. How did I make that? But you have to reward yourself even for the smallest things, because we tend to downplay our successes. 2,000 words. I was going for 3. No, 2,000 words. Be happy. Take that moment to celebrate it.
Just perfectly said. I mean, you know what? Life is flying by. We have to just celebrate the small wins because they add up to the big ones, and, just keep moving forward and try to have lots of fun while you're doing it. This is supposed to be fun. Writing your book, there's going to be deadlines. You need accountability, but have some fun along the way. So, I think, my last question, I mean, it's almost to the half hour. I can't believe how fast this half hour has flown by, is that for the people that, have just started and they've dropped off, you know what I mean? And they really want to do this. The bottom line is you have to commit. You have to make sure you commit to this and take all the steps that, you indicated today during our half hour. I mean, everybody, I'm going to finish this off by, throwing it back to Regan, but I'm just going to say, you know what? Isn't she inspirational? This woman has done so much in writing. Her website is reganblack.com. I know she would love for you, to connect with her. She's all over social media. She's part of my inner circle. She's an amazing person that you want to know if you don't know her already. So, Regan, I'm going to throw it back to you and just, some final words. How can people get in touch with you? What is your latest thing going on? How can people get connected to you and your newsletter? Just whatever you'd like to say.
If you go to reganblack.com, you can see all my books that I've done. I have a page there. You can see what's coming up. The cover reveal for the book I'm putting out later this summer will be coming soon. So you might want to stay tuned to that. My newsletter peeps get special prizes. The June prize is posted, and it has links so you can see all the benefits of being part of my newsletter. I think you can get there on the reganblack.com/perks. Will take you directly to the newsletter page as far as what you get when you sign up. But my newsletter people get access to my books earlier and things like that. They get different opportunities and, of course, the prize packages every month. But I just want to leave people with the idea that you can do it. It's so important. If you've got something to say, nonfiction or a story to tell that just matters to you and speaks to your heart, you're not going to get started just by sitting and wondering. Take that step. Dare to dream and get out there and put the words on paper. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to get out there. And I think once you start putting them together and it snowballs and you feel that confidence, you'll be really pleased and happy with yourself that you took that time.
Regan, that is a perfect way to finalize the show. I want to thank you so much for coming on. I told you, everybody, she's super inspiring and she gave some amazing smart tips. She gave so many that I need to replay this because I need to write some stuff down. Do me a favor, everybody. Connect with Regan Black, reganblack.com. She's on Facebook. She's on Twitter. If you need to get in touch with her and you can't find her, let me know and I'll connect you to her. If you don't already know her, you need to get to know her. I met her on social media, and you know what? I'm always trying to get the word out about social media. Take it to the next level. Regan and I met through another amazing person, Tracy Cotton, on social media, giving you a shout out, Tracy. And now Regan and I correspond almost every day. So connect, collaborate. Together, we are stronger. So I hope today you have found the show to be inspiring, informative. Please share with your communities. Definitely post it around to, again, you know what, let's empower and support one another. Thank you so much for joining my show, Inspiring Interviews with Successful Smart Women. Regan, give a wave goodbye. Lift up your coffee cup. Let's all,
cheers.
let's all have an amazing day. Thanks, everybody.